Good morning, everybody. What is up? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations 2020, Best Podcast News Award winner, 2018 Innovation Award given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association, and I host the only online conversation in the world for dads and fathers that is sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care. And as part of that team last year, I was able to reach out directly or indirectly to over 100,000 fathers around the world. So good Friday morning, Ryan Knight. How are you?
Fantastic. Good to see you as always, Dr. Vibe. For those that don't know who Ryan Knight is, I'm one of the co-founders of the Afro Caribbean Business Network. We support entrepreneurs of African and Caribbean heritage, really to figure out what stage their business is in and help them create a strategy and a blueprint to grow their companies exponentially. For myself, I'm an entrepreneur as well. I run a company called Detailing Nights. So we provide mobile waterless car cleaning. So we go to people's houses or your office, clean your car on the spot without water and using our plant-based, eco-friendly cleaning supplies. And shout out to our youth entrepreneurs this summer, in the heat, in the rain sometimes, getting it done, learning about what it feels like to be an entrepreneur and talk to clients, actually deliver a service. And hey, sometimes if a client's not happy, we go back and make sure we fix it and make them happy. So learning all those ebbs and flows of entrepreneurship, I'm really proud of them. And this Saturday, we're going to be doing a youth entrepreneur, what would you call it? Celebration. So in partnership with Empowered for X and the entrepreneurship space for, the entrepreneurship innovation space for Black youth. We're going to be doing that event this Saturday here in Brampton. So if you have a young entrepreneur, send them because they could get $500 for their business.
Well, you know what? This is Detailing Nights weather this week.
No complaints on my end. The sun is out. I mean, it's a bit heavy.
Yeah.
So you definitely have to stay hydrated, maybe have an umbrella sometimes. But yeah, it's the sun is just been beautiful.
Wonderful. What's been going on this week other than Detailing Nights?
The study group is going strong, slowly gaining some momentum. It came out of the Black Entrepreneurship Ecosystem Conference. So we've been doing these study groups each Tuesday evening, just to keep the conversation going, really talking about what principles should we have in place in order to work as organizations together. And then also what platforms could be used to improve communications and make sure that it's seamless so people can really know what's going on across all themes of the Black community. But other than that, slowly but surely making the move to Ajax and getting some. Things are somewhat locked in.
Is it confirmed?
I would say we're 98% there.
Wow.
But that's where today's conversation I'm going to be very keenly listening to. But before that, how's your past week been?
Well, first of all, is Brampton going to survive? What is Patrick Brown going to do? He's losing you.
Hold on. Clearly, I was not capable of keeping Brampton. What's the word that I'm looking for? Because the council has almost gone insane. So
yeah. Oh, there's madness going on there.
Like, I can't even keep up. I don't know why, how it's just unraveling. And now, yeah, man, something has to drastically change. And we are right in the middle of election season. So the change can happen now.
It's just been an interesting few months politically for Brampton. Patrick Brown declares himself for the PC national race. Then he gets booted out of it. Controversy there. And then he comes, and he has announced, and correct me if I'm wrong, that he's going to run again for mayor of Brampton.
He just did. It was this week, actually. So he made the press release.
This is blowing up on this Brampton city. It's just like, wow.
So the reason things are blowing up is because Charmaine Williams, who was a counselor, she went to run for provincial. What am I saying? Federal. No, provincial. Sorry, provincial. So she won the provincial race here in Brampton. Congrats to her. She's now an MPP and an associate minister. But just before she won, Brampton, there was technically a vacant seat. So they tried to put, I believe it was Linda Jeffries in, but that process that they used to put Linda Jeffries in, I guess too early, was deemed illegal. So now there's like a rift between the councilors. So half of them wouldn't show up because that illegal thing was done. They're like, oh, we have to wait for legal counsel and for the ruling. And then after it was deemed illegal, now I guess the ones that put it through, they're feeling like, oh, well, I don't know. They caught feelings. Yeah. they're not showing up now.
Yeah, so they're not showing up for meetings and
the list of stuff that they're supposed to get done, they're saying there's close to 1,000 pages that's backlogged here in Brampton. So,
well, hold on, Soka. Did you have insider information about all this, and that's why you're flying the coop?
Right. I wish this was the reason. It's more on the housing side. Finding affordable housing within our price bracket just was not happening in Brampton. So my heart is here. It will still be here, but it's shifting geography. And hey, a new chapter shall be born in Ajax.
And more miles on the car.
Oh, yes. My Prius is up to 434,000 kilometers. So going strong. I love my baby.
So you know what? We got to get a car sponsor for you. We got to get an electric car sponsor for you.
Okay. Hey, I'm willing to write those letters.
Yeah, that's so well. Yeah, well, yeah, Brampton. That's a whole wow. That's a whole other thing. Let's do some shout outs. Some people are already in the house. Mm-hmm. Good morning, Casey Bradfield. Good morning, Marlon Steven. Good morning, Tim Frey. Tim Frey, every 10 conversations I have, one of those 10 conversations mentions your name in a positive light, by the way.
Yes.
I'm telling you, Divine Right from the DC area. Good morning. Thank you for stopping in on Friday. I don't sing. You know that song. Some of you've been around long. You know that song. Well, let's get at it, because housing has always been a subject of conversation. And now, since the economy is on a floating life right now and Ryan's moving, we thought, oh, hold on a second. Also, the naked property with Osai. So Osai has owns a company that helps with renovations of housing things. And so some heavy hitters. So folks, make sure you have the questions, because we have Raymond McMillan with it this morning. And I'm telling you, this young man has made such a positive impression in my life in less than a year. Yes. The first time I had the opportunity to meet with him, I was with 2 other people, and I thought, like, and again, people know me, I don't travel past Yonge Street that often.
Yes.
Right? Like, when I pass Yonge Street, I have one of these, right? My Canada passport, right? So I said, okay, just go out for an hour or so. I didn't want to leave his place. We spent about 3 hours there. And there's so much wisdom, evaluated knowledge, not only in regards to housing, but to life, that this man has shared with me and a number of others, and some people that I've introduced him to. Just for example, there is a couple that I know that's in the Virginia area that is looking to move to the GTA.
Gotcha.
And I introduced him to Ray, and on the long weekend that just passed, Ray spent about 2.5 hours with them. And they sent me a note back saying, "What a wonderful time. Thank you so much for introducing us to Ray." So Ray has been involved with mortgages since 1999. He has his pulse a lot on the housing market, especially in the GTA, but he keeps an eye on everything, like North American wise, what's going on housing wise. I have to thank Ryan for introducing me to Ray. So good morning, Ray. How are you this morning?
I am doing very well, gentlemen. Good to see you guys again. Good morning, Ryan. Morning, Ed. How you guys doing?
Yes,
Doing
fantastic.
all right. You are one of your fan club here. Ray is a gem in the community, Marlon Stevens says.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. So let's go at it. And family, especially if you're watching live, bring the questions about housing. So let me ask Ray right now, as where you sit right now, you've been involved in mortgages since 1999. What is your lens right now on the housing market?
Opportunities.
Right.
Lots of opportunities, particularly for first-time buyers. I mean, the higher the prices are, and the more competitive the market is, the more challenging it is for younger buyers to get into the market. You have to understand the mortgage approval process. When you go above $1 million in purchase price, your down payment has to be at least 20%. When you come below $1 million in purchase price, your down payment can be anywhere between 7 and 10%. Right? Insured by the default insurers, of which there are 3 of them. You've got CMHC, you've got Sagan, and you've got Canada Guarantee. So it allows you to get into the market sooner rather than later. What we've seen in March and in February, a lot of emotional buying. Where people are convinced that, there's no more houses available, and you have to buy the house you buy. And if you don't buy this house, then that's it. You're never going to find a house to buy again anywhere in the GTA. And then we saw the market swing the other direction. And many people who bought in March and February found themselves with appraisals coming back lower. And if they were selling to buy, they ran into challenges when they went to sell their home. So now I think it's a great opportunity, a great time for you to get into the market, because many of those houses that were selling in parts of Peel, and many parts of the GTA at $1.2 and $1.3 million are now selling in the high 900s. So your down payment has gone from $260,000 to probably $90-something thousand. And even though the rates have increased, your cost of borrowing, if you choose the right products, will not have changed significantly. And that's where the whole mortgage consultation has to take place. Buying real estate is not an emotional decision. It's one that has to be clearly thought out. It's a plan. It's not I buy a house tomorrow, I buy a house next week. You have to take a year. It's like a year-long process. Make sure everything your credit is fine. You've got your employment stuff lined up properly. If you're self-employed, you report the right amount of income to qualify. If you've got some debt that you want to pay off, you've got time to pay it off, and you want to get into that house with that kind of preparation. So I'll give you an example. In February and March, rates were probably around the 3% range in a 5-year mortgage. And we got a lot of rates increases, both on the fixed rates and the adjustment rates. And the two things are very different. You need to understand that. So if you bought a house for $130,000 in March and got a mortgage 3% on a $104,000 mortgage, your payments are around $4,500 a month. If you bought at the peak of the market, right? You enter the bidding wars, you paid $130 for a freehold townhouse in Brampton or Caledon. It costs you $1.3 million. You put down $206,000. You've got this $1 million mortgage. The same house today is selling significantly lower, and you can possibly find it for around $975 today. The same property, because it's been a 20% swing in values in many parts of Brampton and many other parts of the GTA. Your down payment is now 10%, which is $97,000. Your mortgage is around $900,000. If you speak to the right mortgage professionals, they'll advise you to remove the emotion, forget the Bank of Canada changing the rates every 2 months, and go to variable rate mortgage. The bank's variable rate mortgage is 4.70%. Most lenders, however, give you a discount on that rate from 0.9% to 1.4% in some cases. That means that your rate is going to come in somewhere around 3% or less. Your payment is the same $4,500 a month. So you're buying the same property 2 months later for a lot less with the same, even though rates have gone up. Because as the rates go up, the demand, the buyer pool reduces.
Right.
Less people are buying, it's less competitive. So housing is more or less on sale. So it's very important that you do the consultation. You sit down and you talk to the advisor, run different scenarios, and see what makes the best sense to determine how to go forward.
And that's where I noticed, like in February, March, because we were on the hunt for about a year and a half, and now the prices were going up so quickly that you're getting outbid for everything. Like you said, it was very emotional. But in hindsight, it's like, yes, you're lucky that we didn't get caught at that point. And then by June, July, it was on the other end. But now you weren't in the bidding wars. Sellers were actually coming back that had declined or dismissed our offers before and said, hey, are you still interested? We're willing to work with you. So it's like one-on-one. But then it was with the banks now that, because you're saying, like, as you're saying, the appraisals were coming back lower week by week. So they're now resistant to lend. You have to look at alternative lenders. So what have you seen with people's access to money? Like with rates going up, has it still, are banks still hesitant to lend, or what have you been seeing?
Well, you've got two kinds of mortgage. You got a conventional mortgage, you put on 10% or more, which is basically financed by the bank 100%. Then you've got the high ratio insured mortgage, where you put on less than 20%. That mortgage is insured by a default insurer. So there's less risk on the actual lender, right? That insured mortgage, even though there's a cost to it, because there's a premium to pay for that insurance, anywhere between 0.9% and 4.25%, or somewhere around there. Because the mortgage is insured, there's less pressure on the bank to do all this validation. It's still validated, but if there's any swing in values, it's an insured product. So I always tell clients, sometimes it makes sense to not put a 20%. Particularly in a market like this one, you've got all these things happening at the same time. But if you put the 20% down, and then you're going to get an appraisal, and it comes back $100,000 less, then you've got a challenge. But there's probably a high possibility that the default insurer will actually use the value that it was bought for. Very possible. I mean, we've seen it in many cases. We're doing a transaction right now for a client of ours, and the loan to value is 60%. What that means is that the property is worth $100,000 and the mortgage is $60,000. And let's give you an example. So the loan to value is 60%. Straightforward transaction. The ratios are a bit tight. So declined by 3 banks. So I told Stefan, I said, Steph, when I get insured, he said, what do you mean? I said, send to CMHC. Right? You can insure any mortgage, regardless of the loan to value. He says, I didn't think about that. I said, yeah, send to the insurer and let them insure the risk. So it came back approved the next day. Right? Gotcha. So the client pays a premium on their mortgage, but it's approved. So the client gets what they want. And that's why I come back to my first point. The consultation is very important. It's very important to know with experienced professionals who have seen this all. Because what we're seeing today happened in 2017. The exact same thing. They had the exact same run-up, $300,000 in value, and it swung the other way. So my question to the audience and to people who are buying is, where were you in 2017?
Right.
Where were you?
Yes.
Right? I mean, and the information is all here. Just go to Google and check median house prices in February 2017 and median house prices in mid-2017, and you see the difference. And remove the emotion. Money is not emotional, it's logical. You can't be spending $1 million and using your emotions to make a decision. You're never going to win.
Yes.
You will never win in that process. You keep your emotions for your spouse and your children. Everything else is pure logic. You have to learn to do that. Right? And the other thing is too, I mean, you made a point of moving out to Ajax. I heard you guys in the preamble before I came into the conversation because of affordability. What a lot of folks forget that your affordability in housing also includes transportation. So the house may cost $100,000 more in Brampton, but by moving to Ajax, you'll be spending $200 or $300 more a month on commuting costs.
That's what I brought. That's why I brought up the travel.
Because back in the 2000s, it was Mississauga and Brampton. Mississauga was always more expensive than Brampton. People say, "Oh, we moved to Brampton." And my question is, well, if you work around the corner here and you got a 5-minute drive to work, why would you move up to one less? It's going to take you 40 minutes to get down. I mean, your gas consumption is going to triple.
Yes.
So is the house actually costing you more?
So, Ray, a few things that I want to just bring up. First of all, have Dino Sia. Good morning from Tampa, Florida. Thank you so much for dropping by. Also have Nailene Thompson from Jackson. What's going on with you in Florida, by the way? And
my Florida connection, man.
There you go. Also, Naked Property with the sizes. This is definitely a good time for investors. Great opportunity.
Definitely. It's always. I mean, this correction is an amazing time for investors.
But Ray, want to ask you? Yes, housing prices have gone down, but the price of everything else has gone up.
Yes, I mean the inflation rates.
It's a tightrope for to me from where I sit from, because yes, you're going to pay less in housing prices, but again, I think it's a euphoria. All of a sudden, people are realizing now when the price of gas goes up, the price of everything goes up. That's always been the case, but all of a sudden, people had this light. A lot of people have this light bulb. Oh, wow, things are going up. Yeah, it always has when gas. So how does one in this market walk that tightrope that you talked about? Like, yes, it's great to invest, but you got to, again, you said going to a professional like yourself may make it a better decision.
Well, and you're correct. I mean, the inflation numbers came out yesterday, and we're at 8.1% inflation in Canada, which is extremely high. Okay, and then there are 8 items that make up the consumer price index, and the first one is actually food and shelter, and you get into like household stuff, clothing, transportation, recreation, etc. So it's 8 items, and you can Google that stuff. What makes up the consumer price index? And you're correct. Most people are spending almost half of their gross income on their housing costs, and perhaps we have to rethink how we buy real estate. Right? And what I've seen with a lot of young buyers today, they're trying to buy their last house first.
Right.
So nobody wants to buy a small condo anymore. Nobody wants a small townhouse in Brampton or parts of Durham or anywhere in the GTA. They want that 4-bedroom, 2,000 plus square foot, 2.5 bathroom home with a finished basement. So you buy at the top of the food chain. Well, for many of us who are first or second generation Canadians, your parents would have probably owned a small condo when they first bought their first house. Then they moved into a townhouse, then to a semi. So many buyers today, particularly those in their 30s and 40s, are seeing their parents' final destination as their starting point. So you got, and again, you have to rethink what you are buying. Like, why are you buying the home? Are you buying the home to create wealth? Or are you buying the home because you want a nice place to live? And two things aren't the same. Are you using this home buying journey as part of the process to build your net worth? If that's the case, you can't be buying a home that's going to take up most of your gross income, because the banks are financing your gross income, but you're paying your bills from your net income. And there's usually a huge disparity between those two numbers.
Right. Yes.
If you make $100,000 a year, your net income is probably around $80,000 a year. But we're qualifying you on that $100,000. And everybody's trying to qualify at the maximum amount that allowable debt servicing ratios. So, I tell young buyers all the time, young families, you want to be able to have one person's income cover your entire housing expense. You can't depend on both people's income to afford your home. Because anything goes wrong, you will lose your home. One person's income covers your mortgage payments, your property taxes, and your utility bills. If that person goes off on maternity leave, the income drops by 40%. What happens? Somebody decides, you know what, I want to look after the kids for the next 4 years. I don't want to go into childcare. What happens? Somebody loses their job. What happens? Right? So we have to really sit back and really be very careful and purposeful how we get into the real estate market. Because what we've seen in the past is clients who bought homes several years ago, and I've got the data to show it. Today, their mortgages are much more than they had 10, 15 years ago, because they're spending about $20,000 or more every year than they're actually earning, because we're qualifying you in your gross income, not your net income.
Net income.
Right? You have to decide what is your monthly mortgage figure you can afford. And most clients are dumbfounded. The clients will come to me and says, what can I qualify for? Based on your income, $1.2 million. But what do you want to spend a month? Well, around $1,800 a month. So the two figures aren't remotely close.
Yes.
Right? I mean, I just know what the figure is. It's $4,500 a month on $1 million mortgage. But you want to spend $1,800 a month. So that puts you somewhere around probably $600,000 purchase price. And so the consultation is what is required. Where you sit down, you understand what the client's situation is. Because a young family, like someone who has young children, will have much more household cost, than somebody who is single, or a couple who is childless, or a couple who has had their children leave the house.
Yeah.
And you got to deal with here, you got to deal with dancing classes, piano class lessons, you got to deal with Kumon. That's like $1,000 a month you're spending.
Yeah.
Does the person you're talking about your mortgage ask you those questions? So how can they advise you if they don't know your lifestyle?
There you go.
The consultation is the most critical part of the process to determine what to buy, where to buy, how to buy, and when to buy.
Okay. Questions. There's questions as always. Divine Right has a few, and she says, I'm enrolled in the first-time home buyer programs here in Northern Virginia, and they are great opportunities, but the housing prices are still sky high here. Any advice to get into a house, grant ops, etc.?
Yes, there are always grants in many local, in many municipalities. You've got to research and see what's available. The other thing you may want to look at is look and see what a multi-family home will cost in your neighborhood. So sometimes instead of buying a single family home, you might want to buy a multi-family home from 2 units to 4 units. And those will still qualify for an FHA loan, which is a loan that's applied to this is the American question. So I'm answering the American question now. So Canadian audience, tune in. So an FHA loan will allow you to buy that house. It has 3 to 4 units over the one you live in for 5%, between 3.5% to 5% down payment. If you're ex-military, you've got other benefits also. So if you're ex-military personnel, then you have additional benefits to that process. What happens is that the rental income from those units in that multifamily home becomes part of your qualifying income for the purchase. So you buy a 3-family home, a legal 3-family home. The house is $600,000. You put down your 5% down payment, which is, my math is not the greatest, $30,000. Each unit rents for $1,000 a month. That's $3,000 of rental income. Some lenders use a percentage of that income, but even if they use half of it, that's still $1,500 a month of income that goes towards qualifying. So you've got to figure out what approach works best to get you into the market. Or you buy a fixer-upper, where you take a mortgage loan that allows you to do the additional work.
Right.
And they finance it based on the future value. So there's many different ways to approach it, and you just have to look at the information.
Divine Right also says another question. The questions are coming in, folks, so put them in. Also, what are your thoughts on these rent or lease to own programs? After a few years, you're offered to purchase the house.
Well, it's an easy way in, but it has its risk. I have done 2 in my life. I'm not fond of the process. Now, let's look at the case, this market, for example. If you bought a rent to own home 2 years ago, and the house contract was $1.1 million, and the market kept on right then corrected, and you know, ready to finalize your contract in 2022, it was a 2-year contract, and the value now dropped below $1 million, how are you going to close the deal? Because you are assuming that if the contract is 2 or 3 years for the rent-to-own process, that the value will continue going up continuously. But if it does not go up continuously, if it goes the other direction, close when you're supposed to take possession, then you can't get financing. So do you extend the contract for another 2 years, or do you default on the contract? Or does the vendor make an adjustment to the price, right? So the rent-to-own contract is one where you've got two things running concurrently. You've got a rental contract and a down payment contract. So part of your money pays market rent, and then the remainder, and another part of it pays the balance required for the required down payment. And the vendor and their company will usually work with you to either fix your income or fix your credit, which is usually one of the two things why people go into a rent-to-own contract. Usually it's about you to start a job and they expect their income to increase significantly in the next 2 to 3 years, or they had a credit issue and they expect it to be repaired within the next 2 to 3 years. My approach to the rent-to-own process is, instead of buying a rent-to-own home, buy a brand new home from the builder. For the builder, you buy a pre-construction home from the builder where you buy it today and you probably close a year or 18 months into the future. That would allow you to benefit from the appreciation of that property. Because as the builder builds their phases of homes, what usually happens, each phase costs more. So for some reason, the builder's homes are usually insulated from market swings. Compared, I don't know how they pull it off, but we just did one here supposed to close in 2 days, and that house appraised for, I think, $200,000 more than that person bought it for, and they bought it, I think, 18 months ago, right? And the good thing about that is that if you still have a challenge qualifying for the mortgage, you can go to what is called in the US a hard money lender, or in Canada an alternative or private lender, and they will finance you on the current appraised value and not the purchase price. So it's still allow you to close your deal. It's gonna be a little expensive, but you're in your property. So that's how I'd approach that scenario.
Well, and Divine Right is saying, excuse me, very helpful. I never thought of the multi-unit approach, and thank you for the advice and answers. So, hey, if you want to talk with Ray, I put his deeds up there.
But
he has a Canadian number, US number, and a toll-free number, Divine Right. So it don't cost you nothing to give him a call.
Yes.
Go ahead,
Brian.
and
that's where I'm curious, what questions should we be asking a potential broker that we're working with? And again, selecting a broker is so important. So selecting one that doesn't have this experience, we have seen causes issues. So I'm curious, what questions should buyers be asking potential brokers that they're going to bring on?
That's a very difficult question. I mean, I haven't dealt with a lot of random clients in the last 25 years of my life. My clients were always referrals. I came from a bank background. I came from one of the major banks. So I had clients who came from the bank to me, and then my client base was always referrals. Somebody dealt with me, they were very, very happy. They got the amazing homeownership dream completed, and they told all their friends and family. My phone always rang from that. I never advertised, and so it's. But I think during the conversation with the person, you can tell whether it's nonsense. You know what I mean? And they have to give you options and scenarios. You can't just have one path to the destination. So, I mean, when we sit with clients, we give them a multitude of scenarios and what ifs. And once somebody looks at your, like, okay, your credit profile tells me your entire life story. You give me your pay stub and your credit profile, I can tell you your whole life. I could ask you any questions. Right? So once I look at that information, and Stefan is in the same position today because I coached him to understand that information. Right? So when I look at your credit profile, I can see your spending habits, your payment habits, and your relationship with debt. DEBT, not DEATH. Yes. So with that conversation, and for me, I have my appointments are usually an hour long. 50 minutes of that conversation is getting to know you. 10 minutes is business. I can't advise in $1 million transaction if I don't know who you are. And that's why I don't like doing Zoom calls. I don't talk to clients on the phone. If you want to talk to us, get in your car, come to our office. Because sitting across from the table I can look at you and tell whether you understand what I'm saying or whether you don't.
Mhm.
On the phone, I can't tell if you understand what I'm saying to you. There are certain terms we use in this industry that you may never use. Amortization, debt service ratio, VRM mortgages, ARM mortgages, cap rates. I mean, you don't know what those terms means. And each client has a different level of understanding. I mean, I have a client come and say, well, like, owned 3 houses in the past. Well, the last house was 15 years ago. The entire mortgage process changed since then.
Right.
You know, so
Yes.
I see a lot of that sometimes. Oh, I bought 4 houses. I don't care if you bought 10 houses. What's going on today, what went on last week is not the same thing.
Yes, yes.
And every day we're learning, even from our clients. So I think you have to figure out, it's your gut also. I mean, I've gone to people in the past to do business, and I sit there for 5 minutes. I say, "Oh, thank you very much." I get when I leave. Like, this doesn't make any sense. And if you don't like how it feels, you're usually right. Just get up and leave. Man. You don't owe them anything.
True.
So some things here. Divine Right is saying, we'll definitely be contacting you, Ray. You have lots of pearls of wisdom. So you don't mind speaking with her on the phone, even though she's in DC? Because you said you like you.
That's fine. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Just wanted to make sure.
It's not a hard and fast rule, but I'm saying when you get into this conversation, like,
Yes.
I mean, and you can tell the person's interaction, their engagement. You know what I mean? Are they fully engaged in the conversation, or are they talking to the phone and doing something else? Like, I can tell from the way you respond to me.
Mm.
And I don't want to be in that position with anybody.
Just also an update. When Ray mentioned Stefan, that's his son. So we're going, who's his? That's his son. Ryan and I know that's his son.
Business partner.
Yeah, and business partner. So just to clarify that. So more questions here.
And
Go ahead.
just so they know, they won't be talking to me most of the time. They be down to Stefan, because he does all the mortgage stuff. I just basically start manage it from a distance now.
Yeah.
Right.
Christopher Lawrence says, is it better to buy new build or pre-owned?
That's a personal decision.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, some people I like mature neighborhoods, so I prefer to buy a pre-owned home because I understand the energy of the neighborhood. In a new build, you buy in a new subdivision, and you buy it out knowing what's going to happen there 5 years from now. So for me, I buy a pre-owned home in an established mature neighborhood. The advantage of buying a new construction is that you can choose all your finishes, and it's like buying a brand new car. You have that new house smell. You know what I mean?
Yes,
But that's a very personal decision.
Okay. Another question here from Marlon. Have you ever been consulted to develop strategies and or programs for equitable, affordable housing?
Marlon's been my case for that for the last 2 months. I did a thesis in my third year university. In urban in housing, affordable housing in large and small scale urban centers in the developing world. So I have a lot of background knowledge on affordable housing. I too am an investor in Florida, and we buy homes to cater mainly for the low income housing market, people who are just trying to avoid homelessness. So I'm very involved in that space. I myself have not done anything so far on any at a large scale, as on a governmental level or not. But I'd be open to have conversations and share my insight with anybody who wants to do that.
Okay. Dino has a question. My business is looking at purchasing some waterfront property. What are the things we should be looking for that can become issues?
First thing is zoning. You have to know what you want to do with the property. So if the property is just land, I always tell people land has no value until it has a use. So I mean, the value of the land is based on what the future use is going to be. Are you going to build a house in it? Are you going to build a golf course? Are you going to try and look for oil? Are you looking for gold? So the value is what the use is. So the first thing you want to find out, okay, what can I do with this property? What are the future uses? So do I want to put up a 4-unit home? Do I want to put up a single family home? Do I want to put up a mixed use type of property where it's part commercial, part residential? So the zoning is the first thing you want to figure out. Is the price comparative to similar pieces of land or property in the same area? When you finish your construction, is the price, the value of the land and the finished product, is it work with the neighborhood? Because you don't want to build $1 million house in a neighborhood of $300,000 houses. That's not how you invest in real estate. You're never going to get it sold. right? And then what is your exit strategy down the road, right? How long you plan to hold this property for? You plan to hold it for the rest of your life? Is it part of your portfolio? You plan to, develop it, sell it? Like those are questions you have to ask yourself.
Okay, good stuff.
And I'm curious, just
go ahead,
before
Ryan.
the question, have you been approached by? I've heard of a few communities that have land, like Black residents that have purchased land, and some of them have had it for decades and never really done anything with it. And I'm curious if you've ever had those conversations with people that have purchased land and it's kind of just sitting and not being utilized.
Yeah, I mean, I myself was involved in a large land project with a very close friend back in the late 90s. We totally messed up, lost that property. Because we didn't know what we were getting involved in. And I didn't have the insight I have today. I've had clients who bought many large swaths of land, house on 25 acres, house 30 acres of land. It's not a process for the faint of heart because the financing is very long, tedious, and expensive. And you have to know what you plan to do with it. In some communities, you can cut that land up into lots that are smaller than 2.5 acres.
Right.
Because there's and some of the land, particularly in Ontario, excuse me, some of the land is on the Niagara Escarpment. So you buy 100 acres of land, and all you have is a bunch of trees. You can't do anything with it because protected land. So you have to do a lot of research when you want to get into land buying and land development. I've worked with a couple of smaller developers, guys who built a few homes, but I've not been approached by anybody who has bought any large swath of land. It's in the Black young community to do anything.
They're missing out. Next up, we got naked property side. What have you been seeing recently with the default rates in Ontario compared to 5 years ago?
Default rates is very, very low. More default rates generally are actually very, very low. Even with the rising rates, because people have much equity in their homes today, it's not easy going to default. No, on the second mortgages, people have second mortgages, they run into challenges because the second mortgage is a 1-year contract. At the end of that year, that person wants their money back. Right. So they push you into a default type situation, but it's not a real default. But first mortgages in Ontario, that's a very low figure. I have the figure off the top of my head, but it's probably something like around 1% or somewhere around there, even less than that. Right. And I mean, again, if you're in a default situation, don't panic. Call a lawyer or a mortgage provider, a professional who's experienced. Because, I mean, the thing with default, most people don't want to default in their first 3 years of buying a home. It's usually people have their home for several years. And the reasons are usually two things. A spouse has passed away, income is gone, or somebody got very, very ill, a long-term illness. So they're caring for a spouse or an elderly parent who lives in the home. And those are two primary reasons people are going to default in their mortgage. It's not debt or high mortgage rates. That's not the reason.
Right.
Interesting. Christopher Lawrence, because the housing market in Toronto is skyrocketing, would you say for the first-time home buyers to purchase outside of the city, Kitchener, Windsor, and then move their portfolio to Toronto thereafter? I know Ray has something to say about this one. We have a numbers of conversation about this. Go ahead, Ray.
I guess Christopher's in my brain.
There we go.
Oh, definitely. I mean, why would you try to buy a property in the most expensive market in North America as your first home? I mean, many people today are working remotely thanks to the pandemic of the last 2 years. And they never go back into their office. So it's ideal today to buy in Kitchener, Cambridge, Barrie, Ottawa, anywhere else, Montreal. Calgary, you don't have to buy it in Toronto. I mean, you buy it anywhere. I mean, homes in Calgary cost $400,000 for a single family home. A condo in Calgary is $185,000, right? 600 square foot condo. So yes, you're absolutely correct. I mean, sit down with a mortgage advisor. Somebody has a nice large network of people. Sit down with speak to realtors in that particular municipality. You don't want to carry a Toronto realtor to Windsor to buy a property because they have no clue what they're looking for. They don't know the city, they don't know the neighborhoods or anything. So find a good realtor in Windsor or Cambridge or Sarnia or wherever you want to buy Niagara Falls and get ideas. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, definitely go for it.
naked property of those sizes. Good information. Thanks. And Ray, it's interesting you mentioned that. I have some relatives. It's a married couple. I think they're in their mid to late 30s. Bought a house in Brown. They have 3 kids, and they rented out the basement. Their mortgage is paid for. So now what they're doing is they're moving to Edmonton, and the money they made from that house sale not only is buying them a house in Edmonton, but also they're buying a condo for rental purposes out in Edmonton. So just piggybacking on what you're saying right there, like they're gone out west. I don't know if I'd want to live in Edmonton, but everyone has their own personal preferences. But yeah, so they've been able to buy a house and also buy a rental condo with the money they made from their house sale here in the GTA.
Yeah, I mean, the home buying process is the fastest way to create wealth for anybody, right? I mean, you've got an appreciating asset and a reducing debt, right? So your home's going to go between 4.5% and 5% every single year in a normal market, right? That's your average increase in your value of your home. And then you're paying your debt down. So you have this equity. And now what is important is leveraging that equity to buy more property. Many people are scared. They all want to pay their home off. So you get to 60 or 70 years old, you got a mortgage-free home, but then that's it. How do you use that product, to buy more property? I call it the gift that keeps on giving, right? You buy a house in 1999 for $189,000. House is worth $1.4 million today. I mean, what else could you have done in the last 20 years? That kind of money. I mean, the stock market is also a good tool, but you have no control of that process, and the swings are tremendous. I mean, the market's up and down. If you look at the Dow or the Nasdaq, every single day it's up and down.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yes.
And it's constantly changing. Companies are being bought, they're being sold, they're into problems, they've got all kind of issues. But the real estate, right? The impacts are very, very limited. You've got a couple of things that happen to real estate. The neighborhood changes. Crime starts to increase. Property values flatten, right? Transit comes through. There's construction ongoing for several years. It affects the values at some point. So if you can wait it out, the values will always go back up. You have time. So you need to have time to invest in real estate. When I say time, I'm talking about 10 to 15 years, right? The last 5 years in the GTA, you've had a lot of quick flip type investors where you buy a condo and it's worth $1 million 2 years later. That is not, you can't do it every single, all the time. It's not continuous, right? It's a long-term process.
And I was curious around, 2 questions came to mind. One around, you had mentioned earlier, these hard conversations you didn't say they're hard, but you said they have to be logical around your home and taking out the emotion. And recently I've had conversations with business owners that you have to have the hard conversation about, is this business viable? Should you actually walk away from it? So I wanted to ask for your guidance and advice around, how do you have those difficult conversations with home buyers that their heart is in something, but you're seeing logically it doesn't make sense?
Well, mine is very simple. You shouldn't risk your home where your family is for any business. You can't afford to make your family homeless for your business dreams. If you watch Dragon Den, you hear Kevin O'Leary has the exact same opinion.
Right.
It's one thing he always talks about. So if you got a business, and I've got clients in that position where they've basically taken out close to $1 million out of their property to try to keep a business alive because they're emotionally attached to that business. Well, in my opinion, you need to sell the business or sell the house, one or the other, right? But yeah, I do not subscribe to the approach of using your house to finance any business venture that can possibly go sideways very, very fast. Now, you can buy into a franchise and it makes sense, you know what I mean? But you got to control that equity takeout. If your house is worth $3 million and you have a $400,000 mortgage, you take out, within reason, $300,000 to invest. That may make sense. But if you got a house worth, $100,000 and you're going to take out all the equity allowable to invest in something that you're now trying to start, it's going to take you 5 years probably to get up and running where it's actually making you money. That means a very, very huge risk. Okay, you've left your job and in this very, very uncharted territory. So I would not recommend that to anybody.
Right.
We are quickly run out of time, so we got to do some rapid fire questions. questioning here. So Marlon again is asking, would you see it as a good idea to invest in real estate in a more affordable market and have those proceeds fuel your purchase in one of the more expensive markets like the GTA?
Well, short answer is yes. Long answer is once you go into the less affordable markets, particularly in Canada, and you leave the GTA and start buying property out in Hamilton, Niagara Falls, you're not going to come back to Toronto. Toronto's not the end of the world. It's not the be all of the world. It's many other beautiful cities in Toronto, in Canada. So once you leave here, you ain't coming back, man.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
I've sent clients to Windsor to buy real estate, and they've left in a jiffy, and they ain't coming back to the GTA. They have no interest in coming back to the GTA.
You can see that. Yes.
It's interesting. My younger brother, when he graduated from high school, he went to university in Windsor. Now he's now living in Woodstock, but he has never been back to Toronto.
Yeah.
No,
what does Toronto have make you want to stay here? It's the most expensive place to live in North America. Before it was a continuous gridlock of traffic.
Oh,
You've got crime. You've got expensive childcare. You all these different things you've got. I mean, it's a great city, but it's like any large world-class city, extremely expensive to live in. So why would you come back to the GTA?
And that reminds me of, I think it was Divine asked around what grants, and she was talking more about the US. So I'm curious, have you seen people go through this, like these new programs, like the Black North Initiative, I think has one with the federal government announced something. There's been one in Peel. I think Dream Legacy Foundation had launched something. Have you seen people be successful with these, or
in the last 2 years? No, those grants are very well kept secrets. Nobody knows about them. But the municipality has their own grants, which we've done. There's a Peel Home Buyers Grant. We've done several of those transactions in the past. But again, the grants are not usually. They don't get a lot of. They're not in the front of everybody's mind. And then there's a lot of qualification requirements for those grants: purchase price, income, etc. So, most people come to me with the questions. They don't fit one or the other, right?
Right.
Either what they want to buy is over the grant threshold, or the income is too high. I think the income's like $94,000 a year household income, which is pretty low for two people, right? It might be a single person, but the two people making $95,000 a year, that's like $14,000 a person. That's pretty low for any kind of profession in the GTA.
So Christopher's asking, is there better resale value with condos or houses?
Condos are very unique in that because it's a let's have high-rise condos. Condos can be a single-family home also. The condo is ownership type, not a type of property. So let's make that very clear. You can have a townhouse condo, high-rise condo, and a house that's actually a condo as part of a managed community. Let's talk high-rise condos. High-rise condos, the values can be affected by a lot of things very, very quickly. Mismanaged condo corporations is one of the most popular. We've got like work orders and stuff like that. So your condo fees are go up significantly. The other thing is crime, right? Because it's a high density living environment. If there's crime in your condo, whether it's a murder, there's some kind of drug activity or whatever, you'll find people starting to sell and move. So you have a lot of these units up for sale. I mean, and if Christopher's familiar with Toronto, I mean, there's lots of condos in the GTA. Like there's condos on Caledonia and Finch and Western Road, Albion Road, where the values haven't really changed significantly. But as an investor, they're a great investment opportunity because they're cash flow. So you can buy one of those condos, 3-bedroom condo, they're usually larger, and you can rent about $3,000 a month. And the condo fees on those older condos are usually all inclusive. What I mean by that is that it includes everything: water, heat, and sometimes cable and all your maintenance. So as an investor, you have nothing to worry about in terms of there's no roof to be replaced, no drive, no furnace, none of that stuff. So you have to look and see what do you want out of it. So, I mean, single family homes over the years have gone up much faster in value, but there's some condos where the values have gone up significantly also, but not at the same rate as a single family home.
All right. Last comment here before we start winding it down. Divine Right sounds like Divine Right has a lot of questions for you. I'm waiting for that phone call. It says, I don't know if Ray has any info on buying property in the Caribbean. That's a whole show in itself. I've been thinking about in the future of buying property to rent out for family vacations down there.
The answer is yes, and that's a show by itself. I mean, I've done stuff in Jamaica, I've done stuff in Barbados, I've done stuff in Grenada, St. Lucia. and in Florida. So I have a pretty good insight on buying property for long and short-term rental throughout many parts of the Caribbean. I've got access to realtors and lenders in some of the islands also, yeah.
So Divine Right, when are you going to be calling Ray?
You should just ask her to call in to the show.
Yeah, right. TikTok. Well,
Yes.
I think we're going to call it a wrap at that. Ray, amazing as always. Thank you for taking some of your positive, productive time from your family and your business to share with our family. Great as usual. Thank you for always making the time to come on.
Thank you. And remember, information is premium, right? But we have to know what to do with it. You have all these platforms today spin out information, and we see all these numbers and things all the time. But we have to understand the information we're actually receiving, and how do we make it make value to ourselves and our family and our legacy. If not, it doesn't serve you any purpose.
Nice. Naked
100%.
Property is saying, brilliant what's Ray's contact information? I put it on the screen. It was just there. Naked Property is saying, brilliant conversation, gentlemen. Thank you. I'll put Ray's contact information on the screen again if you haven't seen it, because they're his contact information. So
visit the website.
Yeah,
visit the website. That's much from the website. That's the easiest way to do it. Go to the website. That's the email.
Yeah, and he or Stefan will be happy to chat with you, and it won't be wasted time. Just like this past hour was not, like, it was a little bit of a masterclass that we had here today, family. So please, if you are interested in this, I think everybody should be at least interested in this. Look at this. Marlon saying, calling Ray is time well invested. Naleen is saying, awesome as usual, gentlemen. Divider says, all right, bring him back for a show in the Caribbean. LOL. Such a already.
We're down for that.
Okay. Oh, okay. So Emery saying it's blocked by the caption box. I didn't know that on LinkedIn. So it's okay. I believe you're probably in the GTA or in the Canadian area. Just make it toll free. 1-866-883-0885 or the website, the McMillanGroupInc.com. Done. Ray, thank you so much for everything today. And I know we'll be talking as always. And thanks and love to you and your family, most importantly.
Thank you very much. I had fun as usual. I love this stuff. This is what I do. I love the real estate space. So
yeah, much appreciated. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. You guys be safe. Have a great weekend.
Take care. All right, family. That was rock and roll.
Yeah, that needs to be a monthly thing, man. We have to talk with Ray about.
You're reading my alleged mind. I was gonna. That was my call in the next hour to say, Ray, can you come by once a month, please?
I love that.
Please. So, what's up for the weekend?
So, like I mentioned, tomorrow we're doing the youth entrepreneurship celebration. It will be here in Brampton at Empowered for X, the office, 16 Rutherford Road South. So if you're in the Brampton area, I'll send you the info. And if you know a young entrepreneur that wants to pitch their business, they could get up to $500 as a grant for their company. So Sunday will be out with the entrepreneurs from Detailing Nights, cleaning and learning. But that's kind of the weekend. How about yourself?
Before we go any further, and Marie says that was great. Thank you, Anne Marie. And BA, don't be a stranger. Come back, make it. And Divine Right, excellent show, fellows. Well, I'll know it's excellent once you make that phone call, Divine Right. That's when I know it's going to be excellent. For myself, somewhat quiet day. Well, not just doing stuff around the house today because most of the stuff got done during the week. Tomorrow, I'm actually hosting a 4-hour online summit called The Art of Finding Your Peace.
Okay.
So,
the art of finding your peace.
Well, here it is, Journey to Peace, Art of Peaceful Living Summit. So the two main people behind that, Sid and Liz McNary, are based in Florida. We've really developed a good digital friendship. I actually we did a little promo with all the presenters last night. So if you want to catch the replay, it's on my YouTube channel, but I'll be hosting So that's going from 4 to 8:30 Eastern time, and then 9 o'clock tomorrow to have State of Things with Aisha and Jill. And then on Sunday, I have Black Canada Talking with Kitja Peters. So we are booked with conversations right. Yeah, she's going to be talking about youth justice, and she's based out of the Ottawa area. So quite a full weekend. And see, we already have someone thinking, yes, a monthly show with Ray.
Yes.
So we're gonna make sure we ask Ray if he's more than happy to come on. And also, too, Ray is a sponsor of this show, by the way.
Yes.
He sponsors our Monday shows. So really appreciate it. So family, thank you so much for taking the time. We hope that you have an outstanding weekend. Looking forward to you on Monday. I don't know if we have anyone yet on Monday, but even if it's just us two, we'll be here. We'll be here. There's more than enough going on that we don't talk about to you guys that's going on in the Black environment. This week has been one of those oh my weeks. Let's put it that way. So as always, live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get small to get stronger. Block assumptions, then aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect. Remember to give yourselves grace. And also, don't just manage your time, manage your energy. And you can catch replays of this epic conversation on the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube and Facebook, Afro Caribbean Business Network, which it should be. I got it wrong. Got to change the ticker. And the Ryan O'Neill. Yes, I got to change that ticker too. And so that is it. That is all. Oh, we got a few more quick comments. Charmaine, have a great weekend all. Divine, that call is happening. I took a screenshot of it, so stay tuned. I will see you tomorrow at the summit, Dr. Vibe, and Naked Properties saying awesome conversation. All right, family, God bless, peace well, keep the faith. Remember to give yourselves grace, and we will see you on Monday. And if most of North America is really hot right now, so please stay cool and stay hydrated. See ya.